Dawn bled gray across frozen Montana prairie. Wyatt Kane rode the fence line, breath misting white, checking posts. The blizzard had cracked. Wind cut through his coat. Below, a cottonwood stood black against snow. And beneath it, something wrong. A horse. Mist twisted around a low branch. Coat slicked with frost. The animal's eyes rolled wild. Wyatt dismounted. His boots broke through ice crust with sounds like bones snapping. Then he heard it. A child's breathing, ragged, wet. The boy lay curled under exposed roots wrapped in a baby blanket the color of creek ice. His lips were blue. Frost had formed in his hair. A scrap of paper fluttered from the wool pinned with a thorn. Please save him. Wyatt lifted the child. So light. Too light. The blanket came too. Small fingers wouldn't let go. And when the fabric shifted, he caught a scent beneath the cold. Beeswax. Faint but unmistakable. Something was sewn inside. The cabin door stuck from the cold. Wyatt kicked it open. The boy limp in his arms. Inside, the fire he'd left had burned down to coals. He laid the child on his cot and fed kindling to the hearth. Flames caught, heat spread slow. The boy didn't move. Wyatt stripped off the wet clothes, shirt threadbare, pants too big, boots worn through at the sole. The small body was pale as candle wax, ribs showing, bruises yellowed along the left side, old ones. He wrapped the child in wool blankets, tucked him close to the fire, and set water to boil. The blanket, the blue one, lay folded beside the cot. Even damp, the stitching showed quality. French knots along the edge. Work that took months to learn, not frontier hands. Wyatt lifted it to the lamplight. The fabric smelled of cold and fear and something else. He pressed the lining. Stiff paper crinkled beneath his thumb, sealed with wax. A document hidden. The kettle whistled. He poured hot water into a bowl, added a rag, and cleaned the child's face. Dirt came away in streaks. Underneath the boy was maybe 4, maybe 5. Dark hair, gray eyes that didn't open. Come on, son. Wyatt murmured. Stay with me. The boy's chest rose, fell, rose again. Outside, the horse he'd brought back nickered from the barn. Wyatt had rubbed her down, given her hay and water. Quality stock. Someone's prize mare, not a drifter's nag. He spooned warm broth between the boy's lips. Most of it ran down his chin, but some went in. The small throat moved, swallowed. That's it, Wyatt said. That's good. An hour passed, till the boy's skin lost its blue tint. His breathing deepened. Wyatt sat by the cot, rifle across his knees, and stared at the blanket, at the hidden pocket in the lining. He could open it, tear the seam, find out what someone thought worth hiding in a child's only comfort. But the stitching was his mother's work, and tearing it felt wrong. The boy's eyelids fluttered. Mama. The word came thin as thread. Wyatt leaned forward. You're safe now. You're warm. The grey eyes opened, unfocused. Mama said, find the oak. What oak, son? Where Papa carved. The boy's hand clutched the blanket edge. Don't leave me. I won't. Wyatt pulled the wool higher. I got you. The boy's eyes closed again. This time, his face eased into sleep instead of unconsciousness. Wyatt exhaled. His hands shook. He hadn't held a child since. He stood fast, paced to the window. Outside, snow had started again. Soft, steady, the kind that buried tracks. By morning, no one would know where the boy had come from. Maybe that was mercy. Dr. Samuel Greer set his stethoscope aside and shook his head. Pneumonia left lungs half flooded. Wyatt stood in the corner of the doc's cramped office, hat in hands. The boy lay on the examination table wrapped in the blue blanket, eyes closed, his breathing rattled. "What's he need?" Wyatt asked. "Quinine tincture, camphor rub, warmth, and time." Greer wiped his glasses. $40. I'd front it, but the supply wagon don't run charity. $40. Wyatt spring seed money. I'll have it by sundown. Greer nodded. "Wyatt, where'd you find him?" "Under a cottonwood, mile north of my fence line Galone. Just him and a horse." The doc's eyes moved to the blanket, to the fine stitching. "That's not frontier work." "I know." "You report this to the marshal?" Wyatt's jaw tightened. "Not yet." "You should. Boy, this young, someone's looking for him. Or someone left him." The door opened without a knock. Harlan Baxter filled the frame. Big man, 58, surveyor's chain draped over one shoulder like a badge. His eyes went straight to the boy. "Heard you brought in a stray thorn." Wyatt moved between Harlan and the table. "Found him half frozen. Mighty charitable." Harlan stepped closer. The floorboards creaked under his weight. "Boy got a name." "Didn't say." Harlan's hand reached toward the blanket. His fingers brushed the blue wool. His hand trembled. It was brief, half a second, but Wyatt saw it. Harlan's jaw clenched, and he pulled back like the fabric burned. "Where'd you find him exactly?" Harlan's voice had changed, gone careful. "By Dry Creek, under a log." "Your side of the property line or mine?" The question came too fast, too sharp. "Didn't measure," Wyatt said. "Just brought him here." Harlan nodded slowly. His eyes stayed on the blanket, on the stitching, on something he recognized. "Well," he turned toward the door. "Good Christian work, Kane, but strays got owners. Best be careful you don't keep what ain't yours." He left boot heels loud on the plank floor. Dr. Greer exhaled. "What's Harlan want with a sick child?" Wyatt looked at the boy's pale face, at the blanket clutched in small cold fingers. "Don't know yet," he said. "But I'll find out before he does." The land office sat at the north end of Main Street, two-story clapboard with a false front. Wyatt tied his horse and froze. A notice hung on the door, large enough to read from the boardwalk. Fresh ink still wet at the edges. Wyatt Kane, harboring stolen property, child plus horse. Reward for return to Harlan Baxter, county surveyor. Blood roared in Wyatt's ears. Around him, the morning crowd moved slower. Heads turned. Whispers rose like steam off frozen ground. Old man Croft, who'd sold him fence wire last month, studied his boots. The mercantile owner's wife crossed the street rather than pass him. Only Marcus Hale the blacksmith met his eyes and gave a curt nod. Wyatt climbed the steps, ripped the notice down, crumpled it, shoved through the land office door. Harlan sat behind his oak desk, surveyor's chain coiled on the corner like a sleeping snake. He didn't look up from his ledger. The scratch of his pen filled the silence. "That's county property, Kane. Defacing public notices is a misdemeanor." Wyatt slammed the crumpled paper on the desk. "That boy is not stolen. He was dying. Doesn't change the law." Harlan closed the ledger. Slow, deliberate. "My cousin Elias Baxter holds an indentured contract on a child matching that description. Boy ran off 3 weeks ago. Elias posted reward across the territory. I never saw any posting. Don't need to see it for the law to apply." Harlan leaned back. His chair creaked. "Return the child. No questions asked, or I involve Marshal Hale." Wyatt's hands curled into fists, the smell of ink and dust pressed close. Let me talk to your cousin, man to man. Elias is in Red Fork. Won't return till April. Harlan pulled a blank form from his drawer. But I can hold the child in county custody till then, for his safety, like hell. Language, Kane. Harlan laid the form flat. I'm prepared to be reasonable. You sign temporary guardianship over to me. I'll see the boys fed and warmed till Elias arrives. Otherwise, he gestured toward the window, toward the street where the notice had hung. Town's already talking. How long you think charity lasts when folks believe you're a thief? Wyatt stared at the form, at Harlan's ink-stained fingers holding the pen steady. I need 3 days. Harlan's eyebrows rose. To find out who that boy really is. Silence stretched outside. A wagon rattled past. Harlan tapped the pen against the desk. Once, twice, the sound sharp as a nail driving. 3 days, he said finally. Then I file with the marshal and Kane. His eyes were cold. Keep that blanket safe. It's material evidence. Wyatt turned and walked out. His boot heels loud on the plank floor. On the boardwalk, Etta Langford waited, arms crossed, shawl pulled tight. She was 52, grey threading her dark hair, ran the only boarding house that didn't ask questions. Saw the notice, she said quietly. The wind carried the smell of lye soap from her apron. Harlan's got half the merchants believing him, other halves waiting to see which way the wind blows. Wyatt exhaled, his breath misted. Boy's got pneumonia. Needs $40 in medicine. Etta reached into her apron pocket, pulled out a small leather purse, pressed it into his hand. 60, take it. Etta. Don't. Her voice was firm. I lost my boy to typhoid 10 years back. Would have given every coin I had for one more day with him. Her eyes glistened. You saved that child, Wyatt Kane. Let me help. He closed his fingers around the purse, his throat tight. Thank you. She nodded. Now get that medicine and Wyatt. She glanced toward the land office. Watch Harlan. Man doesn't fight that hard for someone else's property unless it's really his. The cabin looked smaller in the failing light. Wyatt rode up with medicine tied to his saddle and saw Harlan's horse hitched to the porch rail. His gut twisted. Inside, the fire crackled low. The boy lay on the cot, blanket tucked to his chin, breathing ragged but steady. Harlan stood by the hearth holding a rolled document sealed with red wax. Didn't invite you in, Wyatt said. He set the medicine on the table. Didn't need invitation. Harlan unrolled the document. The paper crackled. This is a county eviction notice, Kane. Effective today, you've got 90 days to vacate this property. The room tilted. What? Harlan laid the paper flat, smoothed it with one hand. According to territorial land records, this property was deeded to Gideon Baxter in 1875 under the Homestead Act. Gideon was my brother, died in '79, left the deed to me. He tapped the document. Your claim dates to 1880. Mine's older, mine's legal. Wyatt's vision blurred. That's a lie. I filed this claim 7 years ago. Worked every inch. Then you filed wrong. Harlan's voice was flat. Bureaucratic. County surveyor reviewed the boundaries last week. Your fence line's inside my deed marker by 400 yards. That makes this cabin, this barn, your corral mine. You're the county surveyor. Exactly. Harlan's smile was thin. So when I say the boundaries are off, they're off. He rolled the document back. You've got till April 15th. After that, Marshal Hale escorts you off what is legally Baxter land. Wyatt's hand shook. 20 years. 20 years clearing stumps, mending fence, surviving winters that killed weaker men. His wife's grave was 50 yards from this door. Why now? His voice came hoarse. Harlan glanced at the boy on the cot. Because you've got something that belongs to me, and I'm tired of asking. The boy? The boy? The blanket? Harlan stepped closer. The smell of whiskey and sweat came with him. I know what's sewn in that lining, Kane. My niece Myra Baxter. She had a habit of hiding things in needlework. Clever girl. His jaw tightened. Too clever. Wyatt's breath caught. Niece. Myra's dead. Harlan continued. Died in childbirth 4 years ago. Left behind a son. He pointed at the cot. That son and something else. Something she stole from me. A land grant. Wyatt said slowly, pieces falling together. Harlan's face darkened. That document's a forgery. Myra never owned land. It's rightfully mine, and I'll see it destroyed before any bastard child claims what I've built. Silence pressed heavy. The fire popped. So, here's the trade, Harlan said. Give me the boy in the blanket. I'll tear up this eviction. You keep your land. Nobody gets hurt. Wyatt looked at the boy, small, fragile, fevered, and thought of the note. Please save him. No, he said. Harlan's face went cold. You've got 90 days, Kane. Then you'll have nothing. No land, no home. He moved to the door, and I'll still take the boy. The door slammed. The boy whimpered in his sleep. Wyatt sank into a chair, head in hands. The eviction notice glared white on the table. Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall again. Etta Langford arrived at dawn with a pot of chicken broth and sharp eyes. She set the pot on the stove, ladled a bowl, and crouched beside the cot where the child slept. How's he faring? Her voice was low. The smell of herbs and onion filled the cabin. Fever broke an hour ago. Wyatt sat by the fire, sleepless, rifle across his lap. First good sign. Etta touched the boy's forehead, nodded. Then her gaze dropped to the blanket. Blue wool edge stitched with tiny perfect loops. May I? Wyatt hesitated, nodded. Etta lifted the blanket carefully, held it to the morning light slanting through the window. Her fingers traced the stitching. French knots, each one uniform, spaced like beadwork. This wasn't made by frontier hands, she murmured. This is finishing school work. East Coast, maybe European. Finishing school? Wyatt frowned. My mother taught needlework in Philadelphia before we came west. This pattern? She pointed to the edge. Takes 6 months to learn. Only wealthy girls had time for it. Wyatt leaned closer. The stitches were so small they looked like pearls. Harlan said his niece made it. Myra Baxter. Etta's eyes widened. Myra, I remember her. Came to town 5 years ago. Pregnant, no husband. Harlan wouldn't let her stay at his house. She paused. She lived in a room above the Mercantile till she died. Wyatt finished 4 years ago in childbirth. Etta's hand covered her mouth. Dear God, this boy is Myra's son. They both looked at the child. His chest rose and fell steady now, color returning to his cheeks. Harlan said she stole something from him, Wyatt said. A land grant sewn in this blanket. Etta ran her thumb along the lining seam, pressed gently here. Her voice went quiet. Feel that stiff paper sealed with something. Beeswax, Wyatt said. I smelled it when I found him. Etta's face hardened. If Myra hid a land grant, it's because Harlan tried to steal it. That mound's been boundary shifting for years. Everyone knows. She looked up. But here's the surveyor. Who's going to challenge him? I am, Wyatt said. Then you'll need help and proof. A sound came from the cot, soft whimper. Both turned. The boy's eyes fluttered open, grey as winter sky. He blinked at the firelight, at Etta's face, at Wyatt's. Where's Mama? The voice was thin, scared. Wyatt knelt beside the cot. The floorboards creaked under his weight. You're safe, son. What's your name? The boy's lip trembled. Owen. Mama called me Owen. Etta's eyes glistened. She touched the boy's hair gently. Owen is a fine name. Mama said. The boy's small hand clutched the blanket. Mama said, find the oak where Papa carved our name. She said the land remembers. Wyatt and Etta exchanged glances. Do you know where this oak is? Wyatt asked. Owen shook his head. Mama drew it once. Big tree split by lightning. Etta stood. I'll ask around quietly. See if anyone remembers an oak like that. She squeezed Wyatt's shoulder. Her hand was warm. You did right, Wyatt. Don't let Harlan convince you otherwise. After she left, Owen sat up slowly. Wyatt brought him broth. The boy sipped, hand shaking, but he didn't spill. Are you my papa now? Owen asked. Wyatt's chest tightened. I'm just helping till we find your people. Mama said if something happened, find the man who helps. Owen's eyes were too old for his face. You helped. Wyatt didn't have words for that. He just pulled the blanket higher and watched the boy drink. Outside, a crow called once, then silence. The rider appeared mid-morning, tall, lean black man in a worn Union Pacific coat, grey beard trimmed close. He dismounted slowly, joints stiff, and knocked twice on the cabin door. Wyatt opened it, rifle in hand. Name's Reuben Cole, the man said. His voice was deep, even. Etta Langford sent me. Wyatt lowered the rifle. Come in. Inside, Reuben removed his hat, nodded to Owen, sitting by the fire wrapped in the blanket. The smell of wood smoke and coffee filled the space. Heard you got trouble with Harlan Baxter. More than trouble, Wyatt said. He's trying to take my land and this boy. Reuben pulled a rolled canvas from inside his coat. Laid it on the table. Worked 30 years for Union Pacific. Laid track from Omaha to Oregon. Part of my job was surveying. Every mile logged, every landmark recorded. He unrolled the canvas. It was a map, hand-drawn, meticulous lines representing rivers, ridges, property markers, trees drawn as tiny symbols with notes beside them. This is the 1883 Montana Territory Survey, Reuben said. Every boundary stake, every oak, every creek bend, railroad needed precision, wrong measurement, locomotive derails. Wyatt's breath caught. Does it show property lines? Every single one, including Baxter Holdings. Reuben's finger traced a section. Harlan's official county records say his brother Gideon claimed 320 acres here in 1875. He tapped the map. But this survey done in '83 shows those markers 400 yards east of where Harlan's got them now. He moved them, Wyatt said, blood pounded in his ears. Shifted every stake after the railroad survey was filed. Probably figured nobody'd check. Reuben looked up. His eyes were hard. But maps don't lie. Problem is, proving fraud takes more than a map. Takes witnesses. Takes legal standing. The boy, Wyatt said slowly. Owen, if Myra owned land adjacent to Harlan's, and she left it to her son. Then the boy's got legal standing to challenge Harlan's boundaries. It's Reuben nodded. But you'd need Myra's deed. Original document, not some county clerk's copy Harlan could alter. Wyatt's eyes moved to the blanket draped over Owen's shoulders. "We've got it," he said. "Sewn in that blanket, sealed with beeswax." Reuben studied the boy. "Then Wyatt. Then you've got a chance. But move fast. Harlan finds out you've got proof. He'll burn this cabin and call it accident." Owen looked up, eyes wide. "Will the bad man hurt Papa?" The word stopped Wyatt cold. "Papa." Reuben's face softened. "Not if we're smart, son." Wyatt cleared his throat. "What do we need?" "3 things." Reuben ticked them off on calloused fingers. 1. Open that blanket. Get the deed out without destroying it. 2. Find that boundary oak the boy mentioned. If it's on the map, it's proof. 3. Get testimony. Etta's quilting circle. Reverend Hargrove. Anyone who remembers Myra. And then we wait for Judge Hollis's circuit. He's due in 6 weeks. Territorial judge can override county surveyors. Reuben rolled the map back. "Till then, you keep that boy close and that rifle closer." He stood, settled his hat. "Maps don't lie, son. If that oak exists, it's on my survey. And if Harlan moved stakes, I'll prove it." Wyatt walked him to the door. The morning air was sharp, cold enough to burn lungs. "Thank you," Wyatt said. Reuben gripped his shoulder. "Just keep breathing till the judge arrives." He rode off. Owen came to stand beside Wyatt in the doorway. "Will we win?" the boy asked. Wyatt looked at the horizon at the empty land Harlan claimed to own. "We're going to try." Marshal Tate Hale rode up 3 days later. Federal star glinted on his coat. He was a hard man, 56, who'd kept peace in Montana Territory since before statehood talk. He dismounted with the slow reluctance of someone delivering bad news. "Wyatt." His breath misted in the cold air. "Marshal." Wyatt stood on the porch. Owen behind him peering through the doorway. Hale pulled a folded paper from his vest. The sound of it unfolding was loud in the morning quiet. "Got a warrant here. Harlan Baxter's filed charges. Document theft and child endangerment." Wyatt's stomach dropped. "That's a lie." "Maybe." Hale's face was neutral, but it's signed by County Judge Maddox. Says, "You're harboring a child without legal guardianship and refusing to surrender property, specifically a blanket believed to contain stolen county documents. That blanket belongs to the boy. His mother made it. Then you won't mind handing it over for evidence review." Hale's hand rested on his belt near the revolver. "Makes this easier for everyone." Wyatt's pulse roared. "You take that blanket. Harlan destroys what's inside. You know that." "I know the law says I enforce warrants, not judge them." Hale's voice softened. "Wyatt, I'm trying to help. Give me the blanket. I'll log it as evidence. Lock it in the county safe. Judge Hollis arrives in 6 weeks. He'll decide ownership. 6 weeks in Harlan's hands. 6 weeks protected by territorial custody law. Harlan can't touch it without a judge's order." Hale stepped closer. The smell of leather and gun oil came with him. "Or I arrest you right now for obstruction. The boy goes to county orphan holding and the blanket disappears anyway." Silence. Inside, Owen's small voice. "Papa." Wyatt closed his eyes. "Papa." The word felt like a knife and a blessing at once. "All right," he said hoarsely. "But I want it logged. Every stitch, every seal witnessed." Hale nodded. "Etta Langford can witness. Reuben Cole too if you want." Wyatt went inside, lifted the blanket from Owen's cot. The boy's hand shot out, clutching. No, Mama made it. I know, son. Wyatt knelt, his voice broke. But the marshal needs to keep it safe. We'll get it back. Owen's eyes filled with tears, but he let go. Outside, Etta and Reuben arrived, summoned by some invisible frontier telegraph. They stood witness as Hale unfolded the blanket, examined the stitching, pressed the lining where the stiff paper lay hidden. Sealed pocket, Hale noted aloud. Beeswax intact. He glanced at Wyatt. You want me to open it? No, Wyatt said. Not till the judge. Hale folded the blanket, wrapped it in oilcloth, tied it with cord. Etta signed the evidence log. Reuben added his mark. This goes in the county safe tonight, Hale said. He tied the bundle to his saddle. Harlan can file motions, but he can't touch it. He mounted. The horse shifted under his weight. One more thing, Hale said, looking down. Harlan's filing kidnapping charges if you don't surrender the boy by week's end. Says the child's under indentured contract to his cousin Elias. Elias Baxter doesn't exist, Reuben said flatly. I checked Red Fork. No record of him. Hale's eyes narrowed. That's so. That's so. The marshal exhaled slowly. Steam rose from his lips. Then we got a problem because Harlan's got county clerks backing his story and I got a warrant that says otherwise. He tipped his hat. Keep the boy safe, Wyatt, but I got no choice. If Harlan pushes this to kidnapping, I'll have to act. He rode off. The blanket disappeared into the morning light. Owen stood in the doorway. Tears streaked his face. Will we get Mama's blanket back? Wyatt pulled him close. Yeah, son, we will. But the weight in his chest said otherwise. The land office couldn't hold everyone. Townspeople spilled onto the boardwalk, crowding the doorway, craning to hear the smell of wet wool and tobacco smoke pressed thick. Harlan stood behind his desk like a judge. Surveyor's chain coiled on the corner, ledger open. Wyatt entered last. Etta and Reuben flanked him. Hostile eyes tracked him. Pitying eyes looked away. Thank you all for coming, Harlan began. His voice carried. We're here to address a matter of public concern. The legal status of the child currently residing with Wyatt Kane. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Harlan opened the ledger. 4 years ago, my niece Myra Baxter died in childbirth. She left behind a son. He paused. Let it sink in. That son is the boy in Wyatt's care. Gasps, whispers. Wyatt's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Myra, Harlan continued, was deeded 320 acres by her father, my brother Gideon, in 1882. Upon her death, that land passed to her son. As the child's only living relative and legal guardian under territorial law, I've been administering the estate. Administering or stealing. Reuben's voice cut through the room. Harlan's eyes narrowed. Mr. Cole, I understand you've been spreading rumors about property lines. Let me be clear. County surveyor records are official. Railroad maps are not. Railroad maps don't lie, Reuben shot back. Yours do. Harlan ignored him, addressed the crowd. Wyatt Kane found the boy and has refused to surrender him to proper legal custody. Why? He let the question hang. Because that child represents 320 acres of prime land. Wyatt's own homestead is under eviction. He's desperate. He sees the boy as a way to claim Myra's estate through manipulation. That's a damn lie. Wyatt stepped forward. The floorboards creaked. I'm protecting him from you. Then why? Harlan said smoothly. Did you refuse to let Marshal Hale take the child to County Holding where he'd be safe and fed and away from this conflict of interest? Silence. Because Etta said loudly, you'd kill that boy the moment he was alone, just like you killed Myra. The room erupted. Harlan's face darkened. Myra died of childbirth fever, he said coldly. Tragic, but natural, implying murder is slander, Mrs. Langford. Etta's fists clenched. You forced her into poverty, denied her medical care. That's murder where I'm from. Harlan turned to the crowd, his face was calm now, reasonable. This is exactly the hysteria I'm trying to prevent. The boy deserves a stable home, legal guardianship, and his inheritance protected. He paused. I propose a vote. Does this town recommend Wyatt Kane surrender the child to county custody pending Judge Hollis's review? You can't vote on a child, Wyatt said, his voice shook. It's advisory, Harlan replied. But it'll carry weight with the judge. Hands rose slowly, reluctantly. Some looked ashamed, some looked relieved. Wyatt counted them. His world narrowed to numbers. 12 in favor, 8 against. Reverend Hargrove stood near the back, hands clasped. I abstain, he said quietly. I must pray on this. Wyatt felt the floor drop away. 12 people, neighbors, people he'd helped raise barns for, traded horses with, now believed Harlan's lies. Harlan closed the ledger. The sound was final. The recommendation passes. Marshal Hale will be informed. Wyatt, you've got till Sunday. After that, the law acts. The crowd dispersed. Some touched Wyatt's shoulder. Brief, apologetic. Most avoided his eyes. Outside, the wind had picked up. Carried the smell of coming snow. Reuben gripped Wyatt's arm. Don't give up. Town just voted against me, Wyatt said. His voice was hollow. Town scared, Etta corrected. Harlan controls their credit, their property lines, their livelihoods. Fear makes cowards. Wyatt looked at the empty street at the land office where Harlan's shadow moved behind lamplight. For days, he said. Then I lose everything. Etta stepped in front of him. Made him look at her. Not everything. You've still got that boy. You've still got us and you've still got the truth. Truth didn't win today. No, Reuben said, but the vote did, and we just learned something valuable. What? 8 people voted for you. That's 8 witnesses who will testify Harlan's lying. Reuben's eyes were hard. And 12 who'll have to live with themselves when the truth comes out. Owen appeared in the doorway of Etta's boarding house across the street. He'd been waiting there during the meeting. His face was pale. Wyatt crossed to him, knelt down. You all right, son? Did they say you have to give me away? They recommended it, but recommendations aren't law. What's law? Wyatt pulled him close. Law is what Judge Hollis says, and he's not here yet. Owen's arms wrapped around his neck tight. I don't want a new papa. Wyatt's eyes burned. You won't get one. But even as he said it, the doubt crept in. For days. Then the marshal would come and the law, Harlan's law, would take Owen away. The knock came after dark, soft, hesitant. Wyatt opened the door to find Reverend Josiah Hargrove standing in the cold, hat in hands, his breath misted white. Reverend, may I come in? Wyatt stepped aside. The old man moved slowly to the fire, warming, gnarled hands. Owen sat at the table drawing with charcoal on scrap paper, horses, trees, a lightning-split oak. I'm sorry I didn't speak today, Hargrove began. His voice was rough. At the meeting, I should have. You abstained. Cowardice dressed his prudence. The Reverend's shoulders sagged. The smell of old wool and candle wax clung to him. "But I'm here now, and I need to tell you something." Wyatt sat across from him, waited. Hargrove glanced at Owen, then leaned forward. "I married Myra Baxter in 1882. Private ceremony, just her and a young man named Lucas Everett, railroad worker." He paused. "He died 6 months later. The tunnel collapsed near Rawlins, but Harlan said she died unwed." Harlan lied. The Reverend's jaw tightened. "Myra came to me after Lucas's death. She was pregnant, scared. Harlan had already tried to claim her inheritance. 320 acres her father left her. She told me Harlan forged documents, moved boundary stakes, bribed clerks." Wyatt's hands curled on the table. "Why didn't she fight him?" "She tried. County judge ruled against her. Harlan's the surveyor. His word against hers." Hargrove's eyes glistened in the firelight. "She came to me one last time 3 weeks before she died. Said if anything happened to her, I had to testify. Had to tell the truth about her marriage, about Harlan's fraud. And you stayed silent." "I was afraid." The words came broken. "Quiet." "Harlan threatened to revoke the church's tax exemption. Said he'd run me out of the county. He looked at the fire. I told myself it didn't matter. Myra was dying. The boy was too young to claim anything. But I was wrong." Silence pressed heavy. A log cracked. Sparks flew. Owen looked up from his drawing. "Did you know my mama?" Hargrove turned. His face crumpled. "I did, son. She was a good woman, kind, strong." "Mama said the land remembers," Owen whispered. "Even when people forget," the Reverend exhaled shakily. "She was right." Wyatt stood, paced to the window. Outside, snow fell in thick curtains. "Judge Hollis comes in 4 weeks. If you testify, I will." Hargrove's voice was firm now. "Harlan can do his worst, but Myra made me promise. If anything happened to her, I'd testify the truth. I'm ready to keep that promise." Wyatt extended his hand. Hargrove shook it. His grip trembled, but held certain. "Thank you," Wyatt said. After the Reverend left, Owen climbed into Wyatt's lap, small arms wrapped around his neck. "Will the bad man take me away?" Wyatt held him close. "Not while I'm breathing, son." But outside the wind howled, and 4 days felt like nothing at all. Etta's boarding house dining room smelled of lye soap and lavender. 5 women sat around the long table, quilting needles flashing under lamplight, voices low. They looked up when Wyatt entered, wary, measuring. "Ladies," Etta said. "This is Wyatt Kane. He needs to see the ledger." An older woman, Mrs. Beatrice Hale, the blacksmith's mother, nodded slowly. "Etta vouches for you." "That's enough." From beneath the table, Etta pulled a leather-bound book, pages thick with ink. She opened it and Wyatt saw columns, names, dates, events, births, marriages, deaths, property transactions. "We've kept this for 30 years, Etta said. "Every woman here contributes. Anytime someone pays property tax, borrows money, files a deed, we write it down." She tapped the page. "It's how we know who owes what, who's honest, who's not." Wyatt scanned the entries. His own name appeared. Wyatt Kane filed homestead claim 1880, 160 acres, paid annual tax 1880 to 1886. Here Etta's finger traced a section dated 1881. Myra Baxter née Everett paid property tax on 320 acres. Eastern Ridge boundary $18 annual, paid 1881, 1882, 1883. Wyatt's breath caught. She paid taxes every year till she died. Beatrice said the firelight caught the grey in her hair. Harlan never paid a cent on those acres. We noticed. We always notice. Another woman, Ida Morrow, thin-faced and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. Harlan filed a deed claim on that same land in 1884, 1 year after Myra's death. We wrote that down, too. She tapped the ledger. The sound was sharp. Funny how a man suddenly owns property he never paid for. This proves fraud, Wyatt said. In a just world, yes, Etta's voice was hard. But judges don't accept women's records as evidence. Call it hearsay, gossip. Then what good is it? It's corroboration, Beatrice said. You get the Reverend to testify Myra was married. You get what? You get Reuben to show his maps. We provide it to her. Provide the tax record. 3 sources, 3 different proofs. She met his eyes. That's harder to ignore. Wyatt looked around the table. 5 women who'd been dismissed, overlooked, called gossipers and busybodies. They'd been building a counter-archive for decades, keeping truth when the law forgot. Why help me? He asked. Because, Ida said quietly. Harlan did the same thing to my sister. Shifted her boundary stakes, claimed her creek access. She couldn't prove it. Lost the land. Her jaw tightened. We don't forget. Etta closed the ledger. The leather cover was worn smooth from years of handling. This ledger is not legal in court, but it's truth. And truth has a way of mattering when light hits it right. She handed Wyatt a folded paper. I made a copy. Every entry related to Myra's property. Hide it. Bring it when Judge Hollis arrives. Wyatt took it, his throat tight. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, Beatrice said. Thank us when Harlan's in chains. The women returned to their quilting, needles flashing, quiet voices weaving stories into fabric. Keeping the truth alive 1 stitch at a time. Outside, the snow had stopped. The sky was clear. Stars visible between the clouds. Wyatt walked back to the cabin with the paper folded inside his coat against his heart where it felt like armor. Marshal Hale returned on the 5th day. This time, his face was grim. The morning sun caught frost on his coat as he dismounted. Got something you need to see? He unfolded a document on Wyatt's table. Parchment, official looking with signatures and a wax seal. The smell of old ink filled the cabin. Indenture contract, Hale said. Signed by Myra Baxter in 1883, binding her son to the guardianship and labor of Elias Baxter for 10 years upon her death. Wyatt's vision blurred. That's a forgery. Maybe, but it's got her signature. Witness marks from 2 county clerks. Hale pointed. His finger left a smudge on the corner. Where? Harlan filed it this morning. Says it's been in his family's records. Just found it. Just found it. Wyatt repeated. His voice was flat. Right when he needs it. That's what I thought, too. Hale's eyes were hard. But legally, this gives Harlan custody. Unless you can prove it's fake. The ink, Reuben said from the doorway. He stepped inside. Snow dusting his shoulders. The cold came with him. Let me see that. Hale handed it over. Reuben held the document to the lamplight, studied the signature, the date, the seal. This ink's too fresh, he murmured. Look, he pointed to the flourish on Myra's signature. Ink from 1883 would have browned by now, oxidized. This is blue-black, recent. Can you prove that? Hale asked. Not me, but I know a man in Helena, territorial ink inspector, tests documents for the land office when fraud's suspected. Reuben looked at Wyatt. We send this to him. He can date the ink chemically. 3 days turnaround. Hale exhaled, his breath steamed. 3 days and Harlan's pushing for immediate custody transfer. Then stall him, Reuben said. Tell him the document needs territorial verification. That's standard procedure for indenture contracts, isn't it? Hale's mouth twitched, almost a smile. It is now. He took the document back, folded it carefully. I'll send it to Helena today, but Wyatt, if this comes back as legitimate, it won't, Wyatt said. If it does, Hale continued, I got no choice. Law's law. After he left, Wyatt sank into a chair. 3 days, then Harlan finds another trick. Maybe, Reuben said. He poured coffee from the pot on the stove. The smell was bitter, strong. But he's getting sloppy. Forging documents in a rush, that's desperation. Or confidence. Reuben shook his head. Confident men don't forge papers. They use what they've got. He tapped the table. Harlan's running scared. We just need to spook him one more time. Owen appeared from the back room. Hair mussed from sleep. Is the marshal taking me? Not today, son. Wyatt said. When? Wyatt pulled him close. Not ever if I can help it. But the weight of the promise felt heavier each time he made it. Reuben rode in 3 days later, saddlebags bulging with documents. He spread them across Etta's dining table. Official territorial records stamped and sealed. The paper crackled under his hands. Found what we needed, he said, voice tight with satisfaction. Wyatt, Etta, and Owen crowded close. The smell of fresh bread from Etta's oven mixed with the mustiness of old documents. Harlan Baxter's surveyor license. Reuben began. He tapped the first document. Issued 1875, suspended 1878 for boundary irregularities. That's territorial code for fraud. Suspended. Wyatt's pulse quickened. For 6 months, then reinstated after he paid a fine to the territorial governor. Reuben's lip curled, which is code for bribe. He pulled out another sheet. Suspended again in 1881. Same charge, same outcome. Twice, Etta breathed. He's been doing this for years. 12 years minimum. Reuben laid out a third document, a ledger with entries in different hands. This is the Territorial Land Office's complaint log. Between 1878 and 1886, 16 families filed disputes against Harlan's boundary surveys, every single one dismissed. Why? Wyatt asked. Because Harlan's the county surveyor. No higher authority to challenge him except the territorial judge, and Judge Hollis only circuits twice a year. Reuben's finger traced the entries. By the time complaints reach him, families have already lost their land. Moved on or died. Etta's hands shook. She gripped the edge of the table. 40 properties, you said. Every deed Harlan filed between 78 and 86 is suspect. Reuben's eyes were hard as flint. 40 families he might have defrauded. 40, Wyatt stared at the documents at the weight of 12 years of corruption laid bare. This proves he's a liar. It proves he's a pattern liar. Reuben corrected. That's stronger. One forgery a judge might overlook. 12 years of fraud. That's criminal conspiracy. Will Judge Hollis care? Etta's voice was tight. Hollis is the one who suspended Harlan the first time. Reuben said. Harlan bribed his way back in, but Hollis remembers. He'll care. Owen, sitting quietly by the fire, looked up. Will Papa keep me now? The room went silent. The fire popped. Outside, a wagon rattled past. Wyatt knelt beside him. Yeah, son. I'm keeping you. Reuben rolled the documents back up, tied them with string. We've got 3 pillars now. My railroad maps, Reverend's testimony, quilting ledger, and now this proof Harlan's been corrupt for over a decade. When's the judge arrive? Wyatt asked. 2 weeks. Can we hold out that long? Reuben met his eyes. We got this far. We'll make it. Etta touched Wyatt's shoulder. Her hand was warm, steady. Harlan's going to fight back hard. Let him, Wyatt said. He's got lies. We've got truth. But even as he said it, he wondered if truth was enough. Harlan had built his empire on lies for 12 years. What was 2 more weeks to a man like that? Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. Light spilled across the snow, turning it gold. For a moment, the world looked clean, new. Owen came to stand beside him at the window. Papa. Yeah, son. When this is over, can we go see the oak? The one Mama talked about. Wyatt looked down at the boy's upturned face, at the hope still living there despite everything. Yeah, he said. We'll go see it together. And that promise felt like the only true thing in the world. The pounding on the door came near midnight, loud, unsteady. Wyatt grabbed his rifle, motioned Owen to hide under the cot. Open up, Kane! Harlan's voice slurred with whiskey. Wyatt cracked the door, rifle raised. Harlan swayed on the porch, coat unbuttoned, face flushed. No surveyor's chain, no ledger, just a man unraveling. The smell of whiskey rolled off him like smoke. Come to talk, Harlan mumbled. Man to man. You're drunk. Damn right. Harlan pushed past him, stumbling to the hearth. You know what it's like keeping this county running? Every boundary, every deed, every goddamn fence post. My responsibility. Wyatt's finger stayed near the trigger. Get to the point, Sarah. Harlan's voice cracked. He stared at the fire. My niece, she was supposed to marry the man I chose. Good family, money. He laughed, bitter, broken. Instead, she ran off with some railroad rat who died in a tunnel. Left her pregnant, penniless. And you turned her away. I offered help, Harlan spun. His eyes were wild, red-rimmed. Room in my house. Food care if she signed over her land. His fist hit the mantel. The sound was dull. That land was mine by right. The current date is November 12, 2025. My brother promised it to me, but he gave it to her. A girl? What's a girl need with 320 acres? It was hers, Wyatt said quietly. She refused me. Harlan's voice dropped. Moved into that room above the mercantile. Wouldn't speak to me. Worked herself half to death washing clothes, mending shirts. He paused, breath ragged. When she died, I didn't mean for her to die. But you waited, Wyatt said, his voice cold as the night air. Waited for her to die so you could take what she wouldn't give. Harlan's face twisted. You don't understand. I built this county, every road, every registry, every he pointed at Wyatt, the gesture unsteady. And now you. You and that boy. You're going to ruin everything. That boy's name is Owen. That boy's a problem. Harlan stepped closer, reeking of whiskey and sweat and something sour. And I'm done asking. You hand him over by dawn or I burn this cabin with or without you in it. Silence. The fire crackled. Outside the wind scraped branches against the roof. Get out, Wyatt said. Harlan stared at him, swaying. Then he turned, stumbled to the door, and disappeared into the dark, his footsteps uneven on the frozen ground. Wyatt stood there, heart hammering until Owen crawled out from under the cot. He's scared, the boy whispered. Wyatt looked down, surprised. What? The bad man. He's scared. Owen's eyes were too old for his face. Mama said people hurt others when they're scared of being hurt. Wyatt knelt, pulled him close. Your mama was wise. Outside, something metallic clinked on the porch. Wyatt opened the door, rifle ready. On the step lay Harlan's surveyor's chain, coiled like a dead snake, glinting in the moonlight, left behind, forgotten or abandoned. Wyatt picked it up. The metal was cold, heavy, each link marked with notches from years of use. Years of measuring false boundaries. He brought it inside. Set it by the fire. What is it? Owen asked. A tool, Wyatt said. For measuring land, he looked at the boy. Your land. Dawn came grey and cold. Wyatt, Owen, Etta, Reuben, and Reverend Hargrove gathered in the boarding house dining room. The table was covered with papers, maps, ledgers, testimony notes. The smell of coffee and cornbread filled the space. Judge Hollis arrives today, Etta said. Hearing set for noon. Reuben unrolled his railroad survey map. The edges were worn from handling. Let's review. Harlan claims his boundary markers are original 1875 placement. My map shows them 400 yards east of where they are now. Proof of fraud. Reverend. Wyatt looked at Hargrove. The old man nodded. His hands trembled slightly. I'll testify I married Myra Baxter to Lucas Everett in 1882. That makes Owen legitimate heir to her property. And the quilting ledger, Etta said, shows Myra paid taxes on her 320 acres from 1881 to 1883. Harlan never paid. Wyatt exhaled. What about the indenture contract? Ink test came back yesterday, Reuben said, grim satisfaction in his voice. Territorial inspector confirmed. Inks from 1887. Documents a forgery. Relief flooded through Wyatt. So, we've got him. If the judge listens, Etta said quietly. Harlan's got friends, county clerks, merchants who owe him favors. Judge Hollis is fair, Hargrove said. I've known him 20 years. He'll listen. Owen, sitting beside Wyatt, tugged his sleeve. Papa, can I help? Wyatt smiled faintly. How, son? I can draw the oak like Mama drew it. Reuben looked up. You remember what it looks like? Owen nodded. Etta gave him paper and charcoal. The boy drew slowly, carefully. A massive oak trunk split down the middle, one side dead, one side alive, lightning scar running jagged through the center. Lightning hit it when I was little, Owen said. Mama said it marked where Papa carved their names. Reuben's breath caught. He pulled his map closer, scanned the property line between Harlan's claim and Myra's recorded deed. His finger stopped. There, he whispered. BXTR property line, split oak, lightning strike 81. He looked at Owen's drawing, then at the map. Perfect match. That's it, Reuben said. That oak's on Myra's property. If we can show the judge this tree still exists, Harlan's boundary fraud is proven. It's still there, Wyatt said. I've ridden past it half-mile north of my fence line. Etta leaned back, eyes closed. We've got him. Maps, testimony, taxes, forgery proof, and physical landmark. Harlan's not going down quiet, Reuben warned. Man, this desperate does desperate things. A knock came at the door, Etta answered. Marshal Hale stood there, hat in hand. Judge Hollis is in town, he said. Wants to convene at noon. Neutral ground, he looked at Wyatt. That means here, Etta's dining room. We'll be ready, Wyatt said. After Hale left, they sat in silence. The weight of what was coming pressed down like snow on a roof. Owen climbed into Wyatt's lap. Will we win? Wyatt looked at the evidence spread across the table. At the allies who'd risked everything to help. At the boy whose mother had sewn truth into fabric and hidden it away, trusting someone would find it. Your mama believed in the land, remembering, he said. Believed in people who help. He held Owen closer. I believe in that, too. Outside, the sun climbed higher. The snow began to melt. Water dripped from the eaves, steady, rhythmic, the sound of winter breaking. By noon, the room was packed. Townspeople filled every chair, stood against the walls. The air was thick with breath and anticipation, and the smell of damp wool. Judge Hollis sat at the head of the table, 64, silver-haired, sharp-eyed. He wore a dark coat, plain but well-made. Marshal Hale stood behind him. The room fell silent when he raised his hand. Harlan sat across from Wyatt, ledger open, jaw tight. The surveyor's chain was absent, still at Wyatt's cabin where he dropped it. This tribunal, Hollis began, is to determine legal guardianship of the minor child known as Owen and to settle disputed property claims related to the estate of Myra Baxter, deceased. He looked at Harlan. His gaze was steady. Mr. Baxter, you claim guardianship by blood relation and indenture contract. Is that correct? It is, Your Honor. Harlan's voice was controlled, but his hands gripped the table edge. And you, Mr. Kane, contest this claim? Wyatt stood. I do on grounds that Mr. Baxter's documents are fraudulent, his property claims are false, and his guardianship would endanger the child's life. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The smell of coffee and nervous sweat filled the air. Hollis raised a hand. Silence fell. We'll hear evidence. Reverend Hargrove, you have testimony. Hargrove stood trembling but resolute. I married Myra Baxter to Lucas Everett on June 12, 1882. I recorded it in the church register. His voice grew stronger. Lucas died 6 months later in a tunnel collapse. Myra was pregnant with his child. Owen Harlan's face darkened. There's no county record of that marriage. Because Hargrove said, voice steady now. Myra feared you'd contest it. She asked me to keep the record in church archives only. Hollis made a note. The scratch of his pen was loud. Mrs. Langford, Etta stood, quilting ledger in hand. This ledger tracks property tax payments in our county for 30 years. Myra Baxter paid taxes on 320 acres every year from 1881 to 1883. She opened to the marked page. Harlan Baxter paid nothing on those acres until 1884 after Myra's death. That's hearsay, Harlan snapped. It's corroboration, Hollis said mildly. His tone didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. Mr. Cole. Reuben unrolled his map across the table. The paper rustled. This is the 1883 Union Pacific Railroad survey. Every property line, every landmark logged. Here, he pointed, is the boundary between Harlan's claim and Myra's deed, marked by a split oak. Lightning struck in 1881. He pulled out a second document, Harlan's County Surveyor map. Harlan's map shows his boundary 400 yards west of the railroad survey. That's fraud. Or surveyor error, Harlan said quickly. Too quickly. Not with this. Reuben laid down a third document, the territorial complaint log. 16 families filed boundary disputes against you between 1878 and 1886. Your license was suspended twice for fraud. The room erupted. Voices rose. Someone shouted. Hollis slammed his hand on the table. The sound cracked like a gunshot. Order. Silence crashed down. Harlan's face was white. Those complaints were dismissed. Because, Reuben said coldly, you bribed your way back to office. Hollis's eyes narrowed. Mr. Baxter, explain why your surveyor records contradict railroad surveys, tax records, and witness testimony. Harlan stood, his chair scraped loud against the floor. Your Honor, these people are conspiring to tell the truth, Etta interrupted. They want the boy's land, Harlan said desperately. Kane's under eviction. He's using the child to eviction notice issued by you, Hollis said. Based on a deed you claim supersedes Mr. Kane's homestead, do you have the original deed? Silence. Mr. Baxter, it's in county archives, which you control as surveyor. Hollis leaned back. His gaze was iron. Convenient. Harlan's hand shook. Your Honor, I've served this county for 12 years, Hollis said. During which time your license was suspended twice, 16 families filed complaints, and now we have evidence of forged indenture contracts. He tapped the ink inspector's report on the table. The document you filed claiming custody rights over this child, the ink dates to 1887, not 1883. The room held its breath. That's Harlan's voice cracked. That's impossible. The territorial inspector disagrees. Hollis's voice was cold now. Final. Mr. Baxter, I'm ordering you to produce the original 1875 deed as you claim gives you ownership of Mr. Kane's land. You have until I finish hearing testimony. Harlan sat down hard. His face was gray. An hour passed. The county clerk arrived, nervous, sweating. He brought the archive box. Hollis opened it. Searched through deeds, registries, certificates. Number 1875 deed to Gideon Baxter. Mr. Baxter, Hollis said quietly. Where is this deed? Harlan stared at the table. His lips moved, but no sound came. Mr. Baxter. It doesn't exist, Harlan whispered. The room exploded. Hollis's hand slammed down again. Explain. Harlan's face crumpled. The land was supposed to be mine. My brother promised it before he died, but he left it to Myra instead. To a girl, his voice broke. I moved a few stakes, changed a few dates, made sure what was rightfully mine stayed mine. You committed fraud, Hollis said flatly. I kept this county running. Harlan stood wild-eyed. Every road, every bridge, every family that settled here, I made that happen, and Myra was going to ruin it with her railroad husband and her Tis. He pointed at Owen, her bastard child. Owen was legitimate, Hargrove said quietly. I married them. Harlan laughed, bitter, broken. Doesn't matter. She died anyway. And the land, he stopped, his shoulders sagged. The land should have been mine. The land, Hollis said, belongs to her son. Harlan froze. Owen, sitting beside Wyatt, looked up at the judge. His voice was small but clear. Can I stay with Papa? The room held its breath. The only sound was the drip of melting snow from the eaves outside. Hollis's face softened. Son, what's your name? Owen. Owen. The boy looked at Wyatt. Owen Kane. If Papa wants me. Wyatt's throat closed. He pulled Owen onto his lap. Yeah, son. I want you. Hollis made a note, his pen scratched across paper. Then by the authority of Montana Territorial Court, I declare Owen Baxter, now Owen Kane, legal heir to 320 acres deeded to Myra Baxter and ward of Wyatt Kane. He looked at Harlan. His voice went hard. Your guardianship claim is denied. Your surveyor license is revoked, and you, sir, are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and child endangerment. Marshal Hale stepped forward, irons in hand. The metal clinked. Harlan sagged. I didn't mean. I just wanted what was mine. It was never yours, Etta said quietly. Hale cuffed Harlan, led him toward the door. The crowd parted, some looked away, some stared. Harlan's boots dragged on the floor. At the door, he stopped, looked back at Owen. Myra loved that boy, he said hoarsely. She shouldn't have, but she did. Then he was gone. The room stayed silent for a long moment. Then someone Marcus Hale the blacksmith started clapping slow at first, then others joined. The sound built like thunder. Wyatt stood. Uncertain, Owen clung to him. Reuben picked up Harlan's surveyor chain from where Wyatt had brought it. Held it up. This tool, he said loudly, has been used to steal land for 12 years. Today we use it to give land back. He looked at Wyatt. Let's go measure that oak. They rode out, Wyatt, Owen, Reuben, Etta, half the town to the split oak. The tree stood massive against the afternoon sky. One side blackened and dead, one side green with early buds, lightning scar running through the center like a wound that wouldn't heal. Carved into the living side, weathered but visible. Lucas plus Myra, 1882. Reuben used Harlan's own chain to measure from the tree to the existing boundary stakes, 400 yards, exactly where the railroad map said it would be. This land, Reuben said, driving a stake into the soft ground, belongs to Owen Kane. The crowd cheered. Owen's hand was tight in Wyatt's. Is it really mine? The boy asked. Wyatt knelt. Yeah, son. Your mama made sure of it. Owen looked at the tree, at his parents' names carved into the bark. Can we come back? Anytime you want. The sun broke through the clouds. Light spilled across the meadow, turning the wet grass gold. For the first time in months, the air smelled of warm earth instead of snow. Spring had come. 1 week later, Wyatt and Owen stood in the corral, watching a young Mustang pace the fence line. The horse was skittish, wild-caught, untrusting, but its eyes tracked them with curiosity beneath the fear. Easy, Wyatt murmured, hand on Owen's shoulder. Let him come to you. The boy held out his palm. Empty. The horse snorted, tossed its head, but stepped closer. Its breath steamed in the cool morning air. A wagon rattled up the path. Etta Reuben with Beatrice Hale and Ida Morrow from the quilting circle. They carried food, tools, fence posts. The smell of fresh bread rode the breeze. Heard you're rebuilding, Etta called, climbing down. Thought you could use hands, Wyatt's throat tightened. You don't have to. We know, Beatrice said. But we're here anyway. By noon, half the town had shown up. Men stringing wire, women cooking over open fires, children playing near the creek where the water ran clear and fast with snowmelt. The same neighbors who'd voted against Wyatt now worked beside him. Faces shadowed with shame and determination. Marcus Hale, the blacksmith, hammered a new gate hinge. Sparks flew. I'm sorry, Wyatt, for not speaking up. Wyatt wiped sweat from his brow. You're speaking now. That's enough. Marshal Hale rode up mid-afternoon, legal papers in hand. Harlan's trial set for June. Territorial prosecutor says with the evidence, he'll get 10 years minimum. And the land? Wyatt asked. Owen's 320 acres are legally his. Free and clear. Hale handed over the deed. The paper was thick, official, sealed with red wax. Judge Hollis signed it yesterday. Wyatt stared at it, Owen's name in careful ink. Owen Kane, rightful heir. That evening, Wyatt sat Owen down at the table. The lamp cast soft light across the boy's face. We need to talk about the land. Owen looked up, worried. Are we losing it? No, son. But we've got more than we can work. 320 acres yours, 160 mine. That's too much for 2 men and a boy. What do we do? I'm going to sell half of your land, 160 acres. Use the money to pay off the mortgage, buy horses, stock the barn. Wyatt met his eyes. That leaves 160 for you, your inheritance. When you're grown, it's yours. Owen thought for a moment, his finger traced patterns on the table. Will we still have the oak? The oak's on your 160. It stays. The boy smiled. Then that's good. Wyatt reached across the table, ruffled his hair. You're wise like your mama. Later, as the sun dropped low and turned the sky pink and gold, Owen stood beside the corral fence, watching the Mustang. Papa, will you teach me to break horses? Wyatt leaned against the rail. The wood was warm from the day's sun. Every morning, son. Long as you want. Owen's hand found his small fingers wrapped around calloused palm. I like mornings now, the boy said. Wyatt looked down at him, at this child who'd come to him half frozen and silent, who now laughed and asked questions and called him Papa without hesitation. Me too, son, he said. Me, too. Scene 2, Motif Lock and Epilogue. Sunday morning broke clear and warm. The first true spring day, Wyatt and Owen rode to the Boundary Oak. The blanket returned by Marshall Hale after the trial was folded carefully in Wyatt's saddlebag. The tree stood massive and scarred. One side blackened from lightning, the other side green with new leaves. At its base, the old carvings weathered but visible. Lucas plus Myra. 1882. Owen dismounted. Touched the letters with careful fingers. Papa carved this. Your first papa, Wyatt said quietly. The one who loved your mama. Owen was silent for a moment. Then, can I have two papas? Wyatt's chest tightened. Yeah, son, you can. He pulled the blanket from the saddlebag, clean, mended, the beeswax seal opened, and the land grant filed safe in territorial records. Owen took it, ran his fingers over the fine stitching his mama's hands had made. I want to leave it here, Owen said. So mama knows I'm safe. Wyatt helped him drape it over a low branch. Blue wool bright against dark bark. The wind caught it gently. It fluttered like a flag of peace. From his pocket, Wyatt drew his knife. Your turn now. He carved slowly, carefully below the old letters. Owen Kane, 1887. Owen traced the fresh cuts with small fingers. It's real now. It's always been real, son. They stood there, silent, the blanket fluttering above them, the smell of warm earth and new grass rising. I brought something else, Wyatt said. From his saddlebag, a small apple sapling, roots wrapped in burlap, still damp from the creek. Together, they dug a hole at the tree's base. Owen held the sapling steady while Wyatt packed earth around it. The soil was dark, rich, ready. When you're grown, Wyatt said, this tree will give fruit, and you'll remember this day. Owen looked up at him, grey eyes serious. Mama said the land remembers. Do you think she knows I'm safe? Wyatt knelt, pulled him close. Yeah, son, she knows. They rode home as the sun climbed, the oak standing behind them, witness and promise both, the blue blanket catching light like water. That evening, Etta brought Sunday supper. Reuben told stories of railroad days, of track laid across mountains, of men who'd worked together to build something lasting. The cabin filled with laughter and warmth, voices layered over one another like music. And for the first time since his wife died, Wyatt Kane felt the word that had eluded him for 5 long years. Home. Owen fell asleep in his chair after dinner. Wyatt carried him to the cot, bigger now, with a real mattress, wool blankets without holes. The boy's breathing was deep and even, no rattle, no fever, just the sound of a child sleeping safe. Wyatt stood by the window, looked out at the land he'd almost lost, at the barn being rebuilt, at the fence post standing straight and true, the moon rose full and bright, silver light spilled across the valley. He thought of Myra, of a woman desperate enough to sew truth into fabric and leave her son to the mercy of strangers. Of how she had to believe that someone would find him, would keep him, would love him. "We got him, Myra," Wyatt whispered to the night. "He's safe now." The wind answered soft, carrying the smell of apple blossoms that weren't there yet, but would be. Come summer, come harvest, Wyatt closed his eyes. And for the first time in a long time, he slept without dreaming of graves. There's a thing about land that folks who've never worked it don't understand. It ain't just dirt and grass. It's memory. Every fence post you sink, every stone you clear, every seed you plant, land holds it. Remembers Wyatt Kane learned that the hard way. He'd buried his wife on that land. Thought it would bury him too, slow and cold, one winter at a time. Then a boy came half frozen, clutching a blanket that held more than warmth. It held truth, and truth, Wyatt learned, was the one thing even corrupt men couldn't bury forever. Harlan Baxter spent 12 years stealing what wasn't his. Moved stakes, forged papers, convinced himself that because he'd worked the system, he'd earned the reward. But systems break, and when they do, it's the quiet people, the quilting circles, the old railroad men, the preachers with guilty consciences, who remember what the law forgot. By June, Harlan was in territorial prison. His surveyor's chain hung in Reuben's barn, rusted reminder of what happens when a man measures wrong. By July, the apple sapling at the Boundary Oak had sprouted new leaves. By August, Owen could sit a horse alone and had stopped flinching when doors opened sudden. And by September, when the first frost came again, Wyatt stood on his porch with coffee steaming in his hands and a boy's laughter echoing from the barn and thought, mercy ain't soft. It's the hardest work there is, but it's the only kind that doesn't rot the soul. He finished his coffee, set the cup down, walked toward the corral where Owen waited, bridle in hand, ready to learn. The land remembered the boy was safe. And Wyatt Kane, widower, horse trader, father, had found what he'd thought he'd lost forever.